Have you ever questioned why, despite being a good person, the world doesn't seem to reward you? You do everything correctly. Trito. Others with respect are honest help whenever you can. But in the end, it's the cunning, the strategists, and even the manipulators who get the most. If kindness were enough, the kindest would rule the world, but they don't. And the reason for this is brutal. Naive kindness is not a virtue. It's a vulnerability from an early age. We are taught that being a good person is the right path. We are told that honesty always wins, that helping others will bring rewards, that good triumphs over evil. But look around you. Who are the most successful people, the most powerful, the leaders? They are those who know how to balance kindness with strategy, and not those who simply follow moral rules expecting recognition. The reality is that the world does not function based on what is fair, but on what is effective. Machiavelli understood, did this centuries ago. In The Prince, he wrote, a shocking sentence. Men forget the death of a father more quickly than the loss of an inheritance. Does it sound cruel? Yes, but look at how people react in everyday life. Most people are not concerned with the common good, but with their own interests. That is human nature. Morality, in essence, is a luxury that can only be afforded by those who already have power. Those who do not have it must earn it before they can afford to be just decent. Now think of the great individuals in history. Caesar trusted his allies blindly and was stabbed to death. Jesus Christ preached peace and charity and was crucified by those he tried to save. Martin Luther King fought for a better world and was assassinated. And the list goes on. All of these men were virtuous. But what did they have in common? They were eliminated by a world that does not reward only good intentions. So does that mean we should be evil? Absolutely not the point. Here is different. Pure kindness without intelligence is a sentence of weakness. If you are overly reliable, someone will take advantage of that. If you are always available, you will not be valued. If you are completely honest, you will be predictable and therefore manipulable. Kindness without strategy is the same as walking around with a target on your back. Society reinforces this illusion because it benefits those at the top. After all, if everyone believes that being good is enough to prosper, no one questions the power structure. But in the real world, the game is different. Naivety can cost you dearly. Have you ever seen that dedicated employee who never says no to the boss being passed over by someone less qualified, but smarter, or that friend who always helps everyone, but when he needs it, no one is there for him? This happens because people value what is scarce more than what is abundant. Being overly good makes you predictable, and predictability does not command rest. Respect, the contradiction lies precisely here. People say they value kindness, but they respect strength. They admire gentleness, but they follow those who demonstrate power. Machiavelli made this clear. It is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. And before anyone says that this is just cynicism, look at real-life charismatic leaders are not simply kind. They know when to establish their authority. Long-lasting relationships are not built on love alone. They demand respect and boundaries. The most successful in the professional world are not those who work the hardest, but those who know how to sell their image and position themselves strategically. Now I ask you, who really wins in the end? The one who acts only with kindness expecting recognition, or the one who understands the game and knows how to balance his actions with intelligence? You can continue to believe that pure morality is enough to win. But in the meantime, the true strategists will be taking the best positions, shaping the world around them. And that is where we come to the next point. If kindness alone is not enough, how can we use it as an asset rather than a weakness? How can some individuals manipulate without anybody noticing, using their own image of good to acquire power? The secret is not in abandoning compassion, but in knowing when and how to utilize it as a strategic instrument. If the world does not reward naive goodness, then why do some good people seem to have so much power? How can certain individuals apparently kind and unselfish manipulate influence, and even rule others without anyone noticing? The answer to this question lies not in kindness itself, but in how. It is commonly considered that manipulation is the domain of individuals who are blatantly brutal, but the truth is far more complex. The truth is, nice people, or at least those who understand how to play the game, can be far more successful manipulators than those who are obviously bad. And the reason is simple: no one suspects them. While apparent harshness generates opposition, individuals who learn the art of blending kindness with strategy achieve something far more valuable: blind loyalty. Think about the leaders who have gone down in history as saviors, heroes, and icons of compassion. Many of them were, in actuality, excellent manipulators. They didn't just stumble into positions of power, they painstakingly cultivated an image of benevolence, developed an empire of loyal followers, and when the moment was perfect, they utilized that influence to achieve their goals, whether virtuous or self-serving. Niccolo Machiavelli understands this dynamic better than anyone. For him, it was never about being entirely good or evil. True power rested in the ability to traverse between these two domains as circumstances demanded. In The Prince, he makes it very evident that the image of virtue is frequently more significant than virtue itself. In other words, it's not about whether you are genuinely good. What truly counts is that people believe you are, because perception, more often than not, dictates reality. This can sound cold and calculated, but it is the way the world has always functioned. Political leaders, commercial moguls, and even spiritual gurus have adopted this tactic for decades. They realize that pure goodness can be influential, but when paired with cunning, it becomes nearly unbeatable. This is why some of the most powerful persons in history have been those who could wear the mask of benevolence while brandishing the sword of strategy. A vivid example of this may be found in the way individuals develop their social image. The good guy, the trustworthy leader, the benevolent figure, these archetypes carry an irrefutable potency because they reduce skepticism. And without suspicion, influence becomes absolute. Consider the difference between two types of manipulators: one who is overtly harsh and one who presents himself as benevolent. The former will always inspire resistance. People will fight against them, expose them, and ultimately try to bring them down. But the latter? They build faithful followers, people who will carry out their objective without even realizing they are being used. A tyrant generates dread, while a benign sage inspires devotion. And devotion is a considerably more potent instrument for sustaining control. This explains why so many historical luminaries, successful businesses, and even media personalities have managed to wield immense power without ever appearing menacing. They grasp a vital truth. Kindness, when applied effectively, causes individuals to let their guard down. It builds trust, and trust is the most valuable commodity in human interactions. When people trust you, they offer you access to their emotions, their decisions, their allegiance. A person who appears unselfish and nice can impact the decisions of others without force or pressure. This is why some of the most powerful persons in history have mastered not only the art of kindness, but also the wisdom of time and execution. They knew when to extend a helpful hand and when to subtly tighten their hold. Now, this doesn't mean that one must become phony or fraudulent in the classic sense. It simply means knowing the power dynamics underlying how people see you. Authenticity still matters, but perception often outweighs reality in affecting outcomes. Those who fail to realize this stay naive in a world dominated by those who do. So, the question remains, how can we navigate this knowledge? Do we become cautious of every act of kindness? Do we suppose that behind every grin lurks a hidden agenda? Not necessarily, but awareness is crucial. Understanding these relationships doesn't mean dismissing kindness. It means embracing its potential as both a force for good and a tool for persuasion. Because in the end, those who grasp the fundamental nature of power are the ones who shape the world, while those who don't are shaped by it. The world functions on unspoken laws, and this brings us to a key question. How can you use this information without becoming a victim? How can you manage this complex game of perception and influence while retaining your integrity? The answer rests in how you control your image and behavior, not by becoming nasty or manipulative, but by mastering the art of mixing kindness with strategy. Kindness alone, without foresight or boundaries, might make you vulnerable. It can encourage exploitation, as the world often preys on those who give without discernment. But when compassion is joined with intelligence, when it is wielded with an awareness of power dynamics, it morphs into something far greater: strength. So the real question is, how do you play this game without becoming a victim? How can you balance virtue with social intelligence so that you are not taken advantage of, yet also do not become someone disgusting in the process? The answer lies in positioning, how you present yourself to the world. And that starts with something fundamental: how people view you. Take a moment and reflect. How are you regarded by others? Are you predictable, always friendly, easy to read? Or are you an enigma? Someone who commands respect because people are never fully sure of your next move. The uncomfortable truth is that respect does not come from kindness alone. It comes from the balance of friendliness and unpredictability. The ability to be open yet not totally decipherable, friendly yet not naive. Because when people can predict your every reaction, you become simple to manipulate. Unpredictability. Machiavelli once remarked that men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. But what does that genuinely mean? It means that reality frequently matters less than perception. In other words, it is not enough to simply be powerful. You have to be recognized as strong. It is not enough to be intelligent. You must portray intelligence. Be honest. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you tried, no one truly sees you? That despite your efforts, your value stays unnoticed? It's not about missing worth. It's about learning how to make that worth obvious. The social game is not fair, and if you don't know the rules, you will always be left behind. But here's the truth. You don't have to stay invisible. There are ways to influence the way people perceive you, to command respect, and to step out of the shadows. In the audiobook, The Anti-Weak, I present 22 strong tactics to master human contact, develop influence, and ensure that your presence is appreciated. Click the link in the description immediately and begin the metamorphosis only you can initiate. Because in the game of life, your image is not just a detail, it is a weapon. And that weapon begins with one critical skill: strategic quiet. Think about this. How many times have you divulged too much about your goals, only to regret it later? How many times have you exposed your heart to somebody who didn't deserve that level of trust? The error most nice individuals make is assuming that those around them are also well-intentioned. But what happens when you talk too much? You become predictable. And predictability, in a society driven by competitiveness, is a terrible vulnerability. The most successful individuals, leaders, strategists, entrepreneurs, understand this principle deeply. They do not announce their next move. They execute it. They do not waste time describing their vision. They let their actions speak for them. By creating an aura of mystery, they keep others continually guessing, always on edge, never quite sure what will happen next. And this unpredictability, it is one of the subtlest yet most powerful forms of influence. But silence is not simply about suppressing knowledge. It is also about comprehending the power of scarcity. The more freely available something is, the less value it retains in people's perceptions. This applies to everything, including words. When you say less, your words have more weight. When you are cautious about what you communicate, people listen more closely when you do choose to talk. This is the psychology of power. Those who say less are generally viewed as more informed, more confident, and more in charge. And this is just the beginning. Mastering perception, influence, and strategic engagement can revolutionize the way you navigate the world. It's time to quit being overlooked. It's time to move into your power. If you're always available, always willing to help, and always saying yes to everything, what happens? You become ordinary, and what is ordinary loses worth. People that understand the social game realize that they need to regulate their presence. Being overly present decreases your relevance, and this notion applies to everything: business, relationships, friendships, and even family dynamics. Think about it. If you always answer immediately, always, provide a listening ear, and constantly go out of your way to satisfy others, you produce the opposite effect of what you intend. Instead of being valued, you are taken for granted. Instead of being appreciated, you become an expectation. And what is expected loses its impact. No one respects what is too freely accessible. Now look at the other side. Those who grasp the power of scarcity, who know how to control their presence, who retain a tiny sense of uncertainty, these are the persons that arouse the most attention. Think about the most respected persons you know. Are they the ones who are always available, at a moment's notice? Or are they the ones whose attention needs to be earned? This is the essence of social power, controlling the perception others have of you. If you appear strong, you will be considered as strong. If you appear valuable, you will be perceived as valuable. If you appear mysterious, people will be drawn to understand you. But let's be clear, this does not imply isolating yourself or pretending to be something you are not. It's not about manipulation, it's about strategy. Knowing when to exhibit charity and when to withhold. Knowing when to be kind and when to remain distant. Knowing when to talk and when silence speaks louder. Because in the game of power, the one who shouts the loudest doesn't win. The one who knows how to move at the perfect moment does. Consider historical personalities, statesmen, or even celebrities who command attention. They do not waste their presence. They calculate it. Their words, their acts, their mere presence have weight because they are not always available. Scarcity creates demand. The rare is valued, while the common is neglected. Ultimately, the distinction between those who command and those who be commanded is not morality but social intelligence. You can continue to assume that just being decent will get you far, or you can start to recognize that kindness without strategy is a trap. Now, you have an option. You can ignore all of this and continue to believe that the world rewards only good intentions. Or you can start to observe the patterns, to genuinely grasp how people function, and utilize this information to no longer be a pawn in the game, but an active player.